There's a political wildfire burning through the south suburbs, and right in the middle of it all stands Tiffany Henyard. Once hyped as a rising star, she crowned herself the super mayor, promising honesty, accountability, and a mission to put people first. To many, she looked like the breath of fresh air politics had been starving for. Young, fearless, ready to break the mold. She said all the right words, posed for all the right cameras, and sold herself as a servant of the people. But that superhero mask, it's been shredded scandal by scandal. Now Henyard is staring down something no Instagram post, no photo op, and no pep rally can cover a federal investigation closing in fast. This week alone brought headlines that made jaws drop. The Illinois State Controller froze all payments to Dalton. Why? Because Dalton flat out failed to turn in mandatory financial reports. It's not a filing error, not a missing form, a total collapse. No records, no transparency, no oversight, which means no state funding. That's not sloppy leadership. That's government collapsing in real time. And the questions don't stop there. Outrage is boiling over how taxpayer dollars were spent or wasted. Township funds used on trips with nothing to do with township business. It's a mayor's conference. Strictly meant for city leaders, somehow had Thornton Township staff on the guest list. That's no accident. It's a power grab, dripping with arrogance, all while the so-called supermayor sits under federal heat. Back in Dalton, the air is thick with betrayal. Residents who once cheered Henyard's name now pack meetings holding protest signs. The same community that hailed her as a savior now wants answers, and they're not asking politely. Public forums no longer look like discussions, they look like battlegrounds, and her allies vanishing. Some have flipped sides completely. Because when the feds start knocking on doors, loyalty evaporates overnight. At a recent township board meeting, that fury boiled over. Residents shouted, trustees froze, and the finances looked like a war zone. What people saw wasn't poor planning, it was betrayal. Whistleblowers had raised alarms and were crushed with threats. Employees who dared to speak truth were fired. This isn't just mismanagement, it's the death of trust, rot infecting every corner of leadership. Then came the revelation that stunned the room. Over $33,000 allegedly blown on Amazon in one single day. Not a month, not a year, one day. That's not a typo. That's abuse of power in full view. Screams I can do whatever I want and nobody can stop me. This isn't public service anymore. It's pure indulgence. And the cost isn't just financial, it's emotional. The very people she swore to uplift now feel gutted. What started as hope has twisted into betrayal. Residents believed Henyard would fight for the forgotten, stand with the underdog. Instead, they got smoke and mirrors. They got lies. They got a leader who cashed in their dreams for her own gain. One of the few brave souls to step up was Carmen Carroll, a whistleblower who didn't just see the dysfunction. She lived it. Instead of staying quiet, she risked it all by speaking out. The response? Retaliation? Careers destroyed. Fear became the daily climate. Inside Henyard's circle, loyalty wasn't earned, it was demanded. Question her and you're cut off. Challenge her and you're crushed. Tell the truth and you're silenced. That's not leadership. That's raw control. And now the people of Dalton are seeing the mask slip. What was supposed to be a new era has rotted into a nightmare. This is the warning sign of what happens when power goes unchecked. Transparency tossed in the trash. Public meetings turned into stage performances. Residents locked out of decisions. Voices ignored. Truth buried. But the press wouldn't back down. Reporters kept digging. Every layer peeled back, revealed another scandal, hiding behind the polished speeches and photo ops. The system was crumbling in daylight. And now the feds are closing in, subpoenas stacking up, federal agents knocking, pressure boiling. What once looked like confidence now reeks of manipulation. Meanwhile, Henyard scrambles to spin the story. Public comments shut down, journalists blocked, narratives rewritten on the fly, but the cracks are too wide to patch. The damage is permanent, the trust is gone, the fallout is blowing wide open. The woman who called herself the people's mayor is being exposed as the opposite, Because in the end, it's the people who paid the price. Lavish trips, VIP perks, excess at every corner, all bankrolled by residents who were promised change. Tiffany Henyard sold the dream, but her actions screamed the truth. She wasn't for the people, she was for herself. Wow. And then came the twist. Nobody saw coming, the infamous Good Burger Facebook fiasco. Once upon a time, Henyard owned a restaurant called Good Burger. It closed, but the Facebook page didn't. Instead, it magically rebranded. What was once a harmless fast food page suddenly transformed into a political propaganda machine, blasting out Henyard's talking points like a digital billboard. To critics, it was proof of her playbook: recycle, rebrand, manipulate. Even a shuttered burger joint became a weapon in her arsenal. No transparency, no accountability, just another illusion meant to prop up the image of a leader who long ago abandoned her people. The story of Tiffany Henyard isn't finished, but the trajectory is clear. What started as a promise of hope now looks like a cautionary tale, a warning of what happens when power goes unchecked, when ambition curdles into greed, when a public servant forgets who they're supposed to serve. Dalton believed in the dream. Now they're living the nightmare, and the federal clock is ticking. There's a political wildfire tearing through the south suburbs, and right in the middle of the flames stands Tiffany Henyard. Once hyped as a rising star, she crowned herself the super mayor, promising honesty, accountability, and a people-first mission. To many, she looked like the breath of fresh air politics had been starving for: young, fearless, ready to break the mold. She said all the right words, posed for all the right cameras, and sold herself as a servant of the people. But that shiny superhero mask, ripped to shreds, scandal after scandal. And now Henyard faces the one thing: no Instagram post, no photo. Opus, no pep rally can cover up, a federal investigation closing in fast. This week brought a headline that left jaws on the floor. The Illinois State Controller froze all payments to Dalton. Why? Because Dalton flat out failed to turn in mandatory financial reports. Not a filing error, not a missing form. A total breakdown, no records, no oversight, which means no state funding. That isn't just sloppy leadership, it's government collapse playing out in real time, and the questions keep piling up. Fresh outrage is erupting over how taxpayer dollars were spent or wasted. Township funds were used on trips with no link to township business. Conference meant strictly for mayors, mysteriously had Thornton Township folks on the guest list. That's not a clerical mix-up. It's a deliberate stunt, a power grab drenched in arrogance. With Henyard under federal heat, this isn't rumor anymore. It's a setup for a brutal showdown. Trust this. We're still in Act 1, back. In Dalton, the air is thick with betrayal. Residents who once cheered her name now pack meetings holding protest signs. The same community that hailed her as a savior now wants answers. They're not asking politely. Public forums look less like discussions and more like battlegrounds. Her allies are vanishing, some flipping sides entirely. Because when the feds come knocking, loyalty disappears overnight. At a recent township board meeting, all that fury boiled over. Residents shouted, trustees froze, finances looked like a war zone. What unfolded wasn't written off as poor planning, it was branded betrayal. Whistleblowers had raised alarms and got silenced with threats. Employees who dared speak truth were fired. This isn't mismanagement. It's the death of trust. Then came the revelation that left the room stunned. More than $33,000 allegedly blown on Amazon in a single day. Not a month, not a year one. Day, that's not oversight. It's abuse of power in broad daylight. It screamed, I can do whatever I want, and nobody can stop me. And the scandals didn't stop there. Enter the infamous Good Burger Facebook fiasco. Once upon a time, Henyard owned a restaurant called Good Burger. It closed. But the Facebook page didn't. Instead, it magically rebranded into the Tiffany Henyard Cares Cancer Foundation. Same page, same login, same admin. When residents asked fair questions about the charity's authenticity, she flat out denied everything. But the receipts online told another story. Here's the kicker. Once the feds sniff charity fraud, the game changes instantly. This isn't just bad optics, it's criminal territory. In just 2 weeks, the FBI dropped 5 subpoenas. 5 targeting Dalton and Thornton Township. 1 subpoena zeroed in on a private security detail where one officer allegedly logged 300 hours in 14 days. Do the math, that's 21 hours a day, every day, no breaks? Impossible. And now the feds want answers. Dalton officials aren't getting a choice. They've been ordered to hand over everything, every receipt, every record, every single document. Deadline, May 20th. No delays. No excuses. If you want to see what political collapse looks like, don't imagine it slow and quiet. Imagine it loud, fast, and merciless. That's Dalton right now. The crown Henyard once wore the super mayor brand she built gone, replaced by subpoenas and the weight of federal scrutiny. And let's be clear, this isn't gossip page drama. These are real families, real tax dollars, real communities paying the price for arrogance. Stripped of her power, Henyard is just another private citizen staring down a tidal wave of consequences. So here's the million-dollar question. Does Tiffany Henyard fade into the history books as just another corrupt politician who flew too close to the sun? Or is she plotting one last desperate stunt, one final twist to rewrite the script? Right now, the empire she built, the speeches, the staged photos, the brand hasn't just cracked. It's detonating in public, with everyone watching. Dalton doesn't need another headline. It needs healing. It needs leaders who actually serve, not leaders who serve themselves. Because the people have already lost too much their trust, their hope, their voice. What they're demanding now, louder than ever, is accountability. And as subpoenas stack higher and insiders start flipping, one truth is certain. This story is far from over. The biggest bombshells haven't even landed. Yet, will Henyard slink off into the shadows, just another disgraced name in Illinois' long history of corruption? Or will she stage one last act of defiance? Either way, Dalton is bracing for impact. Because when someone who branded herself as super mayor ends up drowning in subpoenas, lawsuits, and federal probes, that's not just a fall from grace, it's total collapse. Dalton isn't just facing mismanagement. It's living through betrayal. Betrayal fueled by ego, enabled by silence, and protected by unchecked power. Henyard came in polished, smiling, promising hope. But beneath the surface was a darker truth, one the community is still paying for. What began as hope has rotted into heartbreak, and the people she left behind, they deserve far better, far better.